Hi everyone, and welcome to today's session on how to build an annual plan inside Figured. This is part 2 of the session. If you haven't watched any of our previous webinars, not to worry, you can still follow along, but do recommend that you go watch our webinars on scenario planning and the first part of how to build an annual plan, which shows you how to build out your production trackers. And in today's session, we'll finish this off. My name is Scott Campbell. I'm a Partner Success Manager here at Figured. Just a few housekeeping items. We're using Zoom for today's webinar, so to give you guys the best experience, please close down any apps that you don't need open. It'll just help it stream a lot better. And if you lose the webinar screen, just click on the blue and white icon, and that should bring it back up. If you have any questions during the webinar, please ask them in the chat or save them for the end and put those questions in the chat and we'll try to cover them off. If you need help, you can find this in a few places. We always recommend in the first instance just asking your accountants, as they're probably best placed to answer any financial questions or anything about your farm, as they've normally set it up. For those of you who don't have access, please request access so that you can actually build out a plan for yourselves. It's so easy to do, and just having access to your farm will allow you to follow along in these webinar series. The customer success team, here's how we support all our users. We're in the little green bubble inside the app and on our website. We have a lot of great video content on our YouTube page. Use that when you're working. You can follow along and pause those videos as you work. And then there's just a lot of good reads on our website here. Have a look at some of the case studies to give you ideas on how to grow and accelerate your business. So today it's all about finishing off that 12-month cash flow forecast. We're going to be working mainly in the planning grid over here. And we're going to firstly talk about what snapshots and rolling plan is and how that works. We'll look at building out the rest of our plan using the export and import tool and showing you how you can further edit these in the planning grid. And then we'll jump into reporting. So let's jump into the app. I'm back in my farm here again. And today, just looking at the nav bar, most of our work will be done in this planning grid area. But firstly, I'm going to talk to you about what snapshots are inside of Figured. So when you're in the planning grid, you can take a snapshot by clicking on this Take Snapshot button. If it's your first time taking a snapshot for a given year, this will show up as annual plan. So once you've taken your annual plan snapshot, then you can take as many snapshots as you'd like. So what is a snapshot? It's basically a capture of all the data that you have in front of you. So if I'm making changes to animal health and all these other accounts, made some changes in my operating trackers, all these changes can be reported on. So taking snapshots will allow me to report on all this information in my reports tab. So if I clicked on take snapshots, it'll open up this window where I can give my snapshot a name. So the goal of today is to produce our annual plan for 2020. Here you can show where you're showing actuals up until, I might show actuals up until May 2020, so the end of the previous year. And what that'll do is show, because when it does take a snapshot, it's of all the data that's in your file. So if I show actuals to May 2020, when I go into my reporting and I run this snapshot, and I could actually go back and look at any actuals up until May, but it'll show me my plan going forward from June 2020 all the way through to May 2021. Hopefully that makes sense. So this is just showing what combination of planned and actual data I can see. And then in the description, you can either say that it's your approved plan or maybe something a bit more specific. Maybe it's a new snapshot that you're making a week or a month or two down the track, and you've updated some of your livestock sales or your milk income. You can sort of change that in the description to reflect some of the major changes that you're making, just so it's a lot more meaningful to people that are viewing your snapshots, including yourself. If this is your annual plan, the one that you finish at the beginning of the planning period, you can set it as your annual plan. So that's the plan that you completed with all your original assumptions that you're going to then share with the likes of your banker, your accountant, your farming consultant as well, so that they can all review it and add commentary or changes that'll actually take your plan to the next level, or make edits based on things that'll likely happen. Their expertise will help you have a more solid plan. So that's one great thing about planning in the cloud, is that everybody can come in from their own devices in their own houses and contribute to this plan. So there's no need to have different copies floating around. So if you're happy with that snapshot, click on Take Snapshot, and that'll save that plan. So right now I'm going to jump back to the 2020 year now, and I'm going to show actuals up until May 2020. Well, that's what it's showing now. I'm actually going to change it to Feb 2020 because that information hasn't come in yet. So I want to have a combination of my actuals up until Feb 2020. You can see here that all the actuals from zero, the actuals are showing up blue. I can actually drill down into them and go into zero from Figured. And then going forward, on the right hand side here, you can see my forecasted months. So with all this information now, what I want to show you that you can do is export that out. So what I want to do is take a snapshot before I export it out. So to take a snapshot of it, again, this is so I can use it later on down the track for this distribution curve tool that we have. So I want to give this snapshot a name. So I'll call it Actuals Forecast 2020, Actuals to Feb. I'm going to say this is for my distribution curve tool for 2021 planning. And then I'm going to set it as an annual plan. That's a really important thing. Setting that historical snapshot as the annual plan will basically activate this distribution curve feature that I'm going to show you as we move forward. So I'm going to click on Take Snapshot. Down the bottom left hand corner, this is where Snapshots lives under the planning grid. So this is like a filing cabinet for all your snapshots. So I can see all the snapshots that I've taken. They all live here. They have specific names and descriptions. They show you what date they were saved, when they're showing actuals up until, or whether they're just showing planned data, then it won't have an actuals to date on it, and who actually saved that. The one that I just took then was in 2020, and that was a combination of the actuals up until Feb, and then my planned data going forward from Feb onwards. This snapshot again is for that distribution curve. So having it set as annual plan is what activates that. And we're going to use that to create our 2021 budget. So now let's jump back into the planning grid. And over here, I want to set my actuals to none, just so I can see all my plan data with no actuals showing up anywhere. Then I'm going to jump forward a year into 2021. So this is where we're going to do the bulk of our work. So up the top here from the last session, we've built out all our production trackers. And that was using 3 simple steps: an export, an import, and then some edits to get this showing how I want them to show. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch that session and then come back to this point and follow along. So today is all about everything below that tracker gross profit line. So operating expenses, non-operating expenses, other income. We're going to build this out quickly. So then we can start moving on to reporting and really tracking our progress from what's actually materializing in zero and in our bank accounts against our plan. So firstly, getting that information in, much like our trackers when building that up, we can leverage any existing data that we have around Figured. clicking on Tools, and then clicking on Export. The export window that shows up next, it's important to get the information in here right that we want to send out. So I'm sending out my 2020 years actuals to Feb. We've got all that actual information and some of the forecasted information that we've planned up until. We can use that now by exporting it out on a cache basis. And then click on download, and that's downloaded that CSV file. Click done on the next message that pops up, and then you're in a place to import it in. So here we're going to go back to Tools again, and under Tools we're going to click on Import. So this is the next step. The Imports window shows up again, making sure that we select the right year, 2021, making sure that's on a cache basis. Ensure that the just imported dates to this year is ticked. Select your file from your downloads folder and then click on import. Take a few seconds to import that data. Don't worry about it having a few errors or skipping a few lines. That probably pertains to the headers and all the livestock transactions that we've already built out in the prior webinar. So now we're going to click on done and have a look at all that good information that it's brought in. That didn't take long at all. And now I can actually go through and start making some changes to this information that I pulled in from the 2020 year. So we're going to focus on this information that I have in front of me here. You can expand different sections out by simply clicking on that drop down arrow. So I want to work on calf rearing, and I want to work on say fertilizer here as well. So I'll expand that out. So those are the two sections that I'm going to show you how you can edit your plan further, the different options that you got to work with. So firstly, expanding out fertilizer. It's just nice that I can see my spend for fertilizer that's been imported from last year's actuals here. But what I want to do is collapse that nav bar down. So I've collapsed the nav bar back, and maybe I'm going to start with calf rearing. So over here, looking at calf rearing, I've got things in the first 3 months adding up to about $917. I might need to increase that. One way to do it is simply to select the cell and enter the number. So simple and easy. I've just chucked 100 in there. The other option you have is to use the copy feature. So if you click on copy and put that, it'll put that 100 into that amount field down below. And then the next thing you'd want to do is choose whether you want to spread that copy or copy that amount across either monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly. So what I'm going to do is select quarterly, and then I'm going to select copy. So just like that, you can see that it's copied that value quarterly, nice and easy. Another thing you can do is punch in an annual value here. I've put 1,300 into the first month because I want to increase my spend further. But I want to do something cool. So just thinking about the distribution curve that we were talking about before, we took some snapshots earlier on in this in this webinar of last year's actuals or actuals plus forecast. I can now take this annual figure that I put in. So I bumped it up from 1,269 to 1,300, and I want to click on spread here. Selecting spread will allow me to then populate that annual amount into here. So if you select the amount cell, it'll put that 1,300 in, and I'd want to select this option, the curve option here. So the curve option relates back to that snapshot I took in 2021. It'll actually spread that 1,300 proportionately to how I spent on this account last year. So if I click spread now, what that's going to do is spread that $1,300 across the first 3 months. So I didn't have any spend in the rest of the year from September onwards. Most of it was in August, and the rest of it was in June and July. So such a cool feature to actually spread things based on how you spent or received money last year. So you can see that being done now. And that 1,300 is what I had in that first cell there. So now let's have a look at some of the other options in terms of spreading. I'm going to use fertilizer lime in this example. Chucked in $100 there, and I can adjust that by a percentage. So maybe I want to increase this by 3%, and then click on the adjust by percentage button. So just like that, you can see that it's taken that $100 and applied 3% to that in the next month, and then it just keeps doing the same to the previous month's figure, timesing that by, or increasing that by 3%, and doing that spread. So a percentage spread is another option. When you're done, click on Take Snapshot. So basically we looked at a few different options then, whether that is copy or editing it in a cell, or doing a spread based on the curve, or a percentage spread. At the end of editing all your accounts, take another snapshot. Again, reminding you guys there's no limit to how many snapshots we can take. So anytime you make a major change, take a snapshot, give it a specific name, show your actuals to a certain point. So over here, I'm showing it with my actuals to the end of last year, and I'm giving it a description. So I'm ready to share this. I'm going to set this as the annual plan for the 2021 year, and I'm going to take that snapshot. So it's as easy as that to build out your plan, and now you can move on to reporting with me. So just to summarize, we actually built out our livestock plan and our milk plan in the previous webinar, and in this webinar we used a similar set of tools to build out the rest of our plan based off last year's actuals. We made some edits, and now we're in such a good place to have a look at reporting. So I'm going to go across to the main Figured app here, and I'm going to jump into reporting to talk you through some of the great reports that you can run. So again, your date selector, make sure that you have that set up how you want. So right now I'm just looking at 2020's actual plus forecast with actuals to none. So if I jump into the cash flow report, I can see here just my full year's plan for 2020, and anything that is pertaining to 2021 that was forecasted will automatically roll through. So if I firstly just move forward to say December 19, just want to show you that split of information again between zero and figured. So actuals flow into figured automatically from zero. So here's all my actuals showing up until December, and my forecast going forward. Under additional options, I can show quantities, I can customize my period. So I'll click Run Report. So now you can see dollar values with quantities now for actuals and for my forecast. Any information in May 2020 that has been planned, invoiced, will flow through to the next year, and that's that concept of a rolling plan. We can plan in 12-month chunks, and information that was invoiced last year will automatically flow through to the next year that you're going to start planning. So this is the plan that we did together. You can collapse everything, and then have a more high-level view of your plan. Again, you can expand out different sections by clicking on that plus button. But one really cool thing you could do at this point in your plan before you share it with people is just adjust the areas that you want to see more detail, and then click on Share Report, and then click on Save Report. So the Save Report function will allow you to annotate your plan further. So you can select an item, and you can write a note in here. And all these notes, when you download it as a PDF under Actions, or if you share it with a person, so you can email directly out of here if you click on that share button, will come up with that annotation in that shared report. So adding notes will have comments showing below and the annotations in the actual report. It's an awesome way to make sure you're prepared when you're going to go in for a meeting with your financial advisor or your banker, having your cash flow report with any accompanying notes, just so that you don't miss sharing or talking to a particular point. So if I jump back into reports again, what we could do as well is you could customize your date range. So I'll show you how to do that. So over here, I might want to show actuals to, say, March 2021. So I'm going to select March as my start date and end date in 2021. And then under additional options, I can compare that with the prior 14 months or maybe 13 months. And I can click Run Report. So this is how you can customize your report even further by using the period drop-down menu and using Custom. And what that'll allow you to do is have a look at a 14-month period opposed to 12, because we're not always confined to the 12 months. Just jumping back to our cash flow report in 2020, under additional options, I just wanted to show you how you can show actuals up until a certain point with your live forecast, the one that you're actually living currently, and how you could compare that to your original annual plan. All you need to do there is click on Comparison. So I want to compare that to my 2020 year plan. I know that we have our 2021 that's already in there, but there's no actuals coming in. So just using 2020 as an example, I can go under Showing and look for that snapshot in 2020, which is my annual plan that I did at the beginning of the year. And then you can click on Run. So what that'll do is it'll give us all three bits of information. It'll give us our actuals moving forward. It'll give us our forecasts going forward on these white lines. And the blue lines here are the comparison. So I can see here for, say, steer calves, for example, that I've actually sold 2,200, whereas over here I've sold $2,446. So that's what I planned to sell, and that's what I actually sold. Whereas over here I can see that my forecast for 10,000 odd is still the same as my original plan. I haven't actually changed those original assumptions. So quite cool that you could get everything on one page. I'm going to go back into reports. I've already opened it up here, but into the variance report next. The variance report is a really important report to run for your farm, at least monthly, or as regularly as there is changes being made. So over here, you can run this on a P&L or a cash flow basis, and you can select all your options. So I'm always comparing my actual month with my forecasted month and my actual year-to-date with my forecasted year-to-date just to see how I'm tracking. You could also compare your actual plus full year forecast with, say, your original plan that you did at the beginning of the year that we took a snapshot of. So this is where snapshots are coming into play. You can surface those up and report on them here. You can show quantities. You can show how much you have remaining for your forecast or your snapshot. And then when you're ready, just click on Run Report. So over here, when the variance report is generated, just bear in mind that you can save it and annotate it. But the variance report will show you clearly where you have overspent or where you under-received income on. So any negative variance is red, any positive variance is green. You can collapse and expand out different sections. You can collapse and expand by using these two buttons. So expand everything, collapse everything to make things a bit more concise. And then you can share those reports. So if I go to the very bottom here, so you can see how long it is when you haven't collapsed it. And you can see here that on my closing balance, on my net cash movement, that I'm actually doing better than I originally planned. So the variances are good, and I can talk to those numbers. The next report I want to jump to under reports is the production report. So over here, you can click on additional options to run things on a dollar per kg basis or dollar per milk solids. You can focus on both or just your milk production or livestock production. You can run things on a stock unit basis or kilograms of milk solid basis or peak cow. You can compare that season with prior seasons. So I'm just going to chuck some options in there just to give you a feel for what this looks like. So I can compare the season with the last 4 seasons if I'd like to. The report will be really busy, and if you do get errors like this, that's just because you need to go and tidy up your stock rec. You can't have negative quantities in your actuals, so I just need to tidy up my stock rec. So that's probably a good thing just to learn. If you do something there, usually the error message will point you in the direction of what you need to tidy up. But I can see things on a peak cow or stock unit basis. I need to customize my stock units for this farm. We can show you that in another session, but I just wanted to show you that that information was available here for you. You can value your livestock as well in Figured. Again, that's another session entirely, but you can value your livestock on hand and see how that contributes to your financial plan. So that can be surfaced up in your reporting if you'd like. Again, you can collapse everything just to make it into a neat one-pager, but I'm looking at 2019 and 2020 here for things on a stock unit or peak cow or a kg of milk solid basis. Thank you guys again. I'm just conscious of time. Drop us questions in the little green bubble if you have any questions, and go back and watch all the webinars around scenario planning, around building out an annual plan inside of Figured. Good luck building yours out. Ask us questions as you go along. We're here to help. Get in touch with your advisors when you've finished a plan so that they can add their expertise and their thoughts into your plan so you have one solid plan that you can work to. And just wish you guys all the best. I look forward to talking to you guys in the near future. Cheers.